Keep Oraysa Siyum Hashem, Baruch Shechiyonu V'Kiyonu V'Yonu L'Zman Hazeh. On behalf of tonight's Baalei Simcha, the tens of Messiahim in Masechah Shabbos, many of whom are Messiahim with 2 or 3 chazoros, I'd like to welcome everyone to this Maimed Nechvede Shel Torah, the Siyum of Masechah Shabbos. I'd like to thank the Rabbanim Chashuvim who took off time of what arguably is the busiest time of the year to join and to be Mechabed the Maimed Nechvede Shel Torah. We are humbled by the tremendous Yata D'Shmaya that Oraysa has been zoicha to receive in the mere 21 months of its existence. Thousands of people from around the world have made Oraysa part of their life, with members in England now numbering in the hundreds. Kenya. The effect that Oraysa is having on people is incredible. Many Chavei Oraysa won't go to sleep before finishing the day's Amud with the Chazorah. So much so that a member of the Gated Chabura, who's with us tonight, told me that Oraysa is jeopardizing the Shalom Bayis because he sometimes stays up till well after 1 in the morning finishing the day's Amud and the Chazorah. Another young man told me that since he joined Oraysa, there's no such thing as spare time anymore. Every spare minute that he has, he's using it to finish the Amud, to do the Chazorah, and then again the Chazorah on Shabbos, and to try and look at the Maramakomas. And he blames Oraysa for taking away all the spare time that he once had. On a more profound level, I recently received a call from someone in Gaban who had just come away from a 22-hour shift by the bedside of his teenage daughter who was undergoing treatment for the Machla Le'aleinu. And he called me begging for a chavrusa. Please find me a chavrusa so that I can try, stay on track and keep up with the Amud. And in his own words, and I quote, "I'm holding on by the edges and I'm not giving up." During the first lockdown, a friend who was also sitting in this hall told me, I feel like the director of a hospital. 3 of my children have the virus, including his wife, and he's still keeping up with the Amud. And that's what keeps me going, he said. And while most of us don't find ourselves in these extreme circumstances, Baruch Hashem, on a daily basis, the stresses and strains of our busy lives pull us in so many directions. But we have allowed the oil of Oraysa to give us that kvius, a sense of commitment, and with it, the meridige sipuk and satisfaction that comes with being part of such a program. There are no words to thank the driving force behind this global Moshe HaTorah. He's not here with us tonight, but from 3,000 miles away, we thank Mi'umka Deliba, Yedidi and Yedid Beis Yisrael, Reb Yaakov Metz, who most of you have never heard of before, for being Moshe Nefesh Kepshutei Mamish, Yomam V'Layla, to found and to lead and to direct Oraysa. The thousands and thousands of hours of Limud HaTorah that are learned every day should be a schus for him and his family, and Rabbi Yaakov, you should be zoicha to know only nachas, simcha, and gesund, la'orech yom v'shanim. Together we welcome the new Chavei Oraysa who have joined us to Erevin. We're moida la'ova to the Rebbeinu Shalom and nispanal la'osid. We should be zoicha together to learn, to chaza, and to know many more mesechtas until we're Messiah Shas. Be'ezras Hashem yitich menuchas hanefesh la'archavas hadas. One of the beautiful things about Oraysa is the very wide range of people that it attracts, from Rabbonim, Morei Horah, Marbitzei Torah, Magidei Sheh, hard-working Baalei Batim, Cheder Rebbeim, and Kolinim Delight. And we are especially privileged to have with us a Rav, Reb Shimon Weingarten Shlita, who, besides for joining Oraysa, which was a chizuk in itself, that a Talmid Chacham of that stature is nenef on the program, he supported us and went out of his way to write a beautiful hamlotza, which is yet to be published, Be'ezras Hashem, and actively shows his support and his chizuk for this organization, and is a covered to ask Reb Shimon to share his divrei bracha b'Mesayim the Masechta.
This week's parsha we have a beautiful phrase which was then utilized by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and it's brought in our Masechta. The Masechta we're celebrating tonight on Kuf Lamed Ches on the base, where there's a discussion as to whether Chalila Torah would be forgotten from Am Yisrael. Zot Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, Chas v'shol, shetishtakach Torah Yisrael, couldn't happen. Says do haftacha, ki lo yisi shokach mipi zara. With our program of Oraysa, we have the fulfillment of this pasuk, and we have Rab Shimon Bar Yochai on our side. You've got to do Chazorah, and another Chazorah, and hopefully a third Chazorah, and take the test your knowledge. And we come to the end of the Masechta, and hopefully it's in our pocket. Command the Munach B'Kisei. Okay, 40 times. We'll get there one day, Be'ezus Hashem. I'll call upon him. The way in which Oraysa is learned with such an enthusiasm and all-embracing passion is something which is so uplifting. I've seen younger lights, as Rab Moshe, who deserves such a round of applause. I've seen it with my own eyes, will not go to bed until every word on the Omud is understood, every little bit of the Shaklavataria. Sinishta dochgeleit. It's not reading through it. It's learning to understand. Make a kinyan in the Masechta. So, Rav Moshe and all the Chaverim HaYekarim, all grist to your mills, should continue Mechayel Choyel. And it's Lahagidil Torah Lahadira, because this passionate way of learning makes such a rosha on everybody, on the spouse and on the children and on the whole sviva. So Mechayel Choyel. Now let's look at the end of the Masechta. You know that the Mishnah says, on the penultimate Omud, one of the things stated by the Mishnah is that there's Medida. One can do Medida on Shabbos, but it's a measuring, a Medida shel mitzvah. For example, to measure a mikvah, to make sure that it has the requisite amount of mayim. These are activities which are done even though they might not be necessary at that moment. For example, the Medida, working out the dimensions of a mikveh, which isn't even filled yet, in order to know what the halacha is. Like Rashi says, Lihislamed al davar hoyah. You measure out a handkerchief to find out, is it 3 tefachim or 3 tefachim? Will it convey tumah? Will it not? Is it too small? This is what we have here, and right at the end of the Gemara, the last Omud, Amoyadika Maisa, Ula Ikla the Reish Gelusa. Ula comes to the house of the Reish Gelusa, the exilarch V'Yuzokta of English. Is Chazia the Rabba Bar Avuna, the Yosef Avoino de Maya. And he saw Rabba Bar Avuna, and Amoyah. He's sitting in a bathtub. And I'm Shamayim. So it does. And he's measuring it. Omade. Rashi learns it's full of water. So why was he measuring it? It didn't have the status of a mikveh. What's going on? Omale, Medame Rabbanon Medida the mitzvah. When do the Rabbanon say that Medida is mutter on Shabbos, that's if it's involving a mitzvah? The lav mitzvah mi amrit, do they say that you're allowed to do Medida if it's not involving a mitzvah? Omale. So, Rabbi Bar Ravuna answered, Misasek ba'alma ano. I'm just playing, as it were. Rashi says, Shaloi letzorech. I'm not measuring for a purpose. Elo li'yasuke ba'alma. Filling my tie. Mo'ilai Rabbi Isai. Is it possible to say this about the Heilige Rabbi Bar Ravuna? About what? He's measuring for no purpose. He's got so much Torah going on in his mind. He has to be busy measuring. What's it? ADHD result. What's going on? Rabbi said, if you look at a car, there's a nice bonnet. You don't know what's underneath the bonnet. Sido carburetor, sido a radiator, sido aircon, battery, verschiedene Sachen. But unless you open the bonnet and somebody explains to you all the ins and outs how a car works, internal combustion engine, you're not going to know. You just, that's a bonnet, it's a piece of metal. You've got no idea. Ich mein, there is so much was liegt in der Meise that we don't realize. Let's open the bonnet a little and see what's liegt there. I saw in a sefer, Shabbos Shalmi, this is written by an Italian Goyim 250 odd years ago. The Yaakov Shimshon Sabsai, Siniglia, lived in Italy. He says that a couple of Ramazim, and I believe that both the Ramazim have got a shaykhus with Anshe Oraysa. The first remez is Al-Pi and Derech HaMusa. Ulam thought that Rabbi Bar Ravuna was thinking machshavos about enjoying Olam Hazeh. Olam Hazeh could be compared to this large receptacle of water because this world is like a yam soyer, it's a raging sea. In heutige Lashonis wird man das gerufen a jacuzzi because it's soyer and tov. Al kol ponim. The Gemara says for Kol Moshachli. He was measuring it. Zot Shabbos Shalmi, another meaning. Moshach is like the Gemara in Brachas, which is referring to various oils like Mishcha de Afalsima, Mishcha Kavisha, Mishcha Tchina. Learn the Gemara in Brachas Mem Gimel. And it means, we're talking about Atzei Somim Tamrukim, which is a remez here that maybe he's interested in Yonei Olam Hazeh, the pleasures of Olam Hazeh. So Allah gives him Musa. Eimud Amir Rabbanon Medida, the mitzvah. This moshach, which can be measuring, can also be oil, pleasant oil, is only allowed if it's associated with mitzvah, pleasures of this world. For example, like the Yamshel Shlomo brings down in Baba Kama, it's printed in Baba Kama, in Yamshel Shlomo, that when there's a Oraysa Siyum Masechta, even people who haven't learned have a mitzvah gedoyla to be mishtatef. So that's enjoying Olam Hazeh for the right reason. So the Bapatif and Medida Sheina Shel Mitzvah is just Hanuk Olam Hazeh. But limdoid means also you've got to measure your steps. You've got to be so careful. Think through everything that you do carefully. Is this right in the eyes of Hashem is Barach or not? Is it going to lead me to Olam Haba or not? Is Memela. If you're indulging in Inyan Olam Hazeh, what's going on? Zot Rabba Bar Ravuna, you got me wrong. Mishasek the Alma Ano. He's answering him, my mashove is not on anything except in Bikudei Hashem Yeshorim, Avodas Hashem Ne'emona. And I'm Mishasek the Alma only once a year. For example, Hakol Modim Ba'atzeres, the Ba'inon Nami Lochem. You have to have a Su'udah on Shavuos. Yom Shenitna B'Torah in Yisrael. And also, Ma'ala Yom Kippur, where there's a mitzvah to eat. But apart from that, no. So I'm misasek ba'alma. I don't have much to do with alma hodei. That was the beautiful answer given by Rabbi Baravuna. And it's applicable to us because even those people who haven't yet, who didn't learn Masechah Shabbos, but are mishtatef here this evening, have a gewaltige mitzvah. And going forward to Masechas Eruvin, which we can see that, I don't know, Derech Halot, so maybe Rabbi Baravuna was testing, measuring to get ready for Masechas Eruvin, the height of the lechi, the height of the koira, etc., all the tchum ha'ir u'chadoyna. The second remnants is about limud ha'torah. Torah is nimshal, as we know, to water. Hoi called Solein, the chul ha'moyim. And so therefore he was Moshech. Rabbi Baravuna was trying to be Moshech the Torah. And he finds that it's aruko me eretz midah. It's inestimable. You cannot come lidei gamra. And so therefore, according to the Shabbos Shalmi, Rabbi Baravuna, sitting in this tub, Avoyna Shalmayim, was mitzta'er. I'm never going to get to the end of Talmud Torah. Hagam, as in Shulchan Aruch Harav, in Hilchos Talmud Torah, it says that there's a difference between Torah Shebal Peh and Torah Shebiksav. Torah Shebiksav is Bakrenet. Torah Shebal Peh, because it's got so much depth, more and more and more. So that's Aruch Me'eretz Midah. So Ula says, why are you upset? So he explained, I'm upset because Torah is endless. When am I going to have a sipuk from it? So Ula says to him, no, it's not shaykh. If you've got a mitzvah oiveres, a practical mitzvah to do, then you've got to do it ad gomra, if it's in your hands to do, and that's fine. But when you've no reason to be upset about Torah, because by Torah, there is no sense in being upset about something which is aruko me eretz midah. And he answered him, I agree with you, except nisasek ba'alma. I have to do something for Olam Hazeh. I have to earn a shtikul parnasa. So I've taken time away from my heilige limud. That's what I'm upset about. So that's the way that Masechah Shabbos is completed. It comes to a crescendo. It's not a Maisa Ba'alma, a person having nothing to do and sitting in the bathtub. Strange Maisa. We've opened the bonnet, we've seen inside, there's a great depth to this. And we can, but try and emulate the Heilige Amoraim with them, so it's Nefesh for Torah, the Rishonim, the Achroinim, Ad Hayom Hazeh. We are now participants in this great effort to be misached with HaKadosh Baruch Hu through His Torah. Yehi that we should all be blessed with gewaltige cheshek to continue to learn the Yeser Eis, the Yeser Ois, with Amkus, with the Chavivos, with Dibuk Chaverim, with the Shaklavataria non-ending, day and night, until we can be Zoicha, to learn Torah in Yerushalayim, HaKodesh, Bevias, Goyal Tzedek, B'mheinon, Yomeinu, Amen. Harden Allah, Misha Hershet, Slik Olam Esed Shabbos. Harden Allah, Misha Hershet, Slik Olam Esed Shabbos. Harden Allah, Misha Hershet, Slik Olam Esed Shabbos. Harden Allah, Misha Shabbos, Harden Chavon. Daten Allah, Misha Shabbos, Harden Chavon. Lo Nisma Shem Minot, Esed Shabbos, Nisma Minot, Lo Ba'amodim, Lo Ba'amodim, Harden Allah, Misha Shabbos. Harden Chalon, Daten Allah, Misha Shabbos. Daten Chalon, Lo Yibis, B'Shriv Lech Misha Shabbos. V'lo Yish B'nei Minon, Lo Ba'am Hodein, V'lo Ba'am La'osim. And I basically just want to say that Eruvin is not going away from Shabbos. Eruvin is a chilek from Shabbos. According to the Mefarshim, the Lokach HaKoyenes HaTenem Yodech HaTenes B'Gematria, what? 60, 60 Masechtas. And it seems that they're more Masechtas, 63 Masechtas. The teretz is that in the Cheshbon, we considered Shabbos and Erevin to be two separate Masechtas. But some of the Mefarshim say, no, it's one Masechta, because Erevin is all about going out of the Tchum or carrying from one Rishus to another and making a Heker, and Eruvei Chatzeres. So it says, Al Sein Zach. So we're not leaving you Shabbos. You're not leaving you. Al Kol Ponim, Yehi Ratzonu Fonecha, Adonai Eloheinu Eloheinu V'Sinu Shechet Rosto U'Musen V'Lemazeh Sehim Olalem Abba, Adina Bar Papa, Rami Bar Papa, Nachman Bar Papa, Abai Bar Papa, Mori Bar Papa, Rafan Bar Papa, Rosh Bar Papa, Sof Bar Papa, Hado Bar Papa, Dor Bar Papa. Harev Noah Adonai Eloheinu V'Stivesi Rosto V'Finu Ufirus Anko Besis Lord, Ania Kulonu Anachnu V'Tze'etzo Eilu V'Tze'etzo Anko Besis Lord. Kulonu Yod Eishemeh Olim Deisa V'Seh. Nei Oylein Chakmeini Mitzvah V'Lom Yili. Yi Livi Somet V'Kecha L'Lamanu Lo Yevash L'Olam Lo Yeshkar V'Kedecha Kivam Ki Yisani Baruch Atah Adon Lo Yamdein V'Kecha Amen 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 Selva El Moedom Nachnu L'Chanecha Anu L'Einu L'Yavasenu Shesanta Kalkeinu יש בית המקדש של הסנטר חלקנו יש קלונויס שאנו משקיעים והם משקיעים אנו משקיעים דבקרים משקיעים דבקתנו אנו מאמינים והם מאמינים אנו מאמינים מקבלים שכר והם מאמינים והם מקבלים שכר אנו רוצים והם רוצים לחיי העולם הבא והם רוצים לבני שחס שנאמר ואתה אלוהים תורידם לבני שחס אנשי דומים והם לא ירצו מהם אני אפתח יוצאים לפניך אלוהים בשם שחזרתנו Simon said, Shabbos came to Hashem, Hashem said, this is why my family, Simon, little more than the Lamb, the Ishmael, Master, so the kindness, called, give it, Salmon, Torah, Sefer, the Ahavos, Huskol, Atanoim, Averayim, so let the Cholim, Yam, one is arranged for some shelter, is arranged, Adonim, this guy, Undu, Bahadis, Lechacha, Kanka, Oisa, Bishapha, Tishma, Lecha, Bahakit, Soisa, Isa, Sikhecha, Kiri, Yirway, Nafi, Yusif, Lahosh, Neistani, Hurry, Smile, Bishop, Poet, Adoi, Nori, Ois, the Amoritain, Adonai, Barecha, Samai,
Iskadal v'Iskadash Shmei Rabo V'Almati hu ased eschaduto l'chayom Isayo l'asoko yasoy l'chayom V'Lbim l'kartot Yushalem l'shachno v'yicholim l'gabei L'lech v'chulchono l'chro v'naro V'l'asoko kolchono Yishmai l'asre Gam l'chkut shabrichu v'chusei v'yikorei V'chai yichoyim v'yichoyim v'chai l'chol beis Yisrael V'agalo v'zman korim v'ruamei Yisparach, Yishtabach, Yisparach, Yishama, Yisaseh, Yisador, Yisalem, Yisalor, Shnei, Yikusham, Richu Leila, Mikol, B'chasam, Leila, Leila, Mikol, B'chasam, Shirasot, Yishbachas, Menachem, Asad, Amiram, B'amod, B'rameh Al Yisrael, B'Ramanom, Al Tamidei, Makol, Tamidei, Zalidei, Makol, Madoskim, Oraysa Siyum, B'chol Asar, Asar Yehei, B'chol, B'chol, Yishtamar, B'chol, 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 Narich, B'zven, Revichei For calling the color of Ishmael, the Ruameh. Yehei Shtor Rabba Min Shemai, B'chaim Aleinu, V'Kol Yisrael, the Ruameh. V'Yiseh Shalom B'Rimo, V'Yasa Shalom Aleinu, V'Kol Yisrael, the Ruameh.
Beyam Oy
I mentioned before the range and the spectrum of the people that are part of the Oraysa program. I made a few omissions. We spoke about the Moro Hiro, Rabbonim, and Magidi Shir, Kodim tonight, but we have tonight together with us in this hall 3 Bochrim from Geset Shiva Gedolah, one of whom has been the sign of Sechas Shabbos with the Chazaras and the Fahez. And he's brought along two friends who I think by the end of this evening have definitely been convinced to start Erevin, and they're going to be joining us for the Siyum of Mesechas Erevin, Be'ez Hashem. And further down the line, the two, which I believe are the youngest members of Oraysa, possibly in England, maybe even in Europe, are Avram and Eddie Goldkin, who are with us. Age 13 and 11, who have been Messiah ganz Mesechas Shabbos with the Chazaras. Should give their parents nachas, should watch them to develop and to grow into true Talmidei Chachamim and Yirei Shamayim. About 150 years ago, there was a tzaddik, a gadol, who lived in Lita, who was known as Reb Motela Oshmina. Not such a very well-known person. His name was Ramotcha Rosenthal. He was a rav in the town of Oshmin, and he was very well known as a Baal Moifas and a tzaddik. Although he was a Litvish gadol, this was way before it became fashionable to send kvitlach to Litvish Rosh Hashivas and Gedolim, that he was known as a Baal Moifas and a big Koil Meshuras. And many people flocked to Ramotcha Oshmina for brachas. And he was Taka Koil for them. And as an aside, he was very well known for Koiling Yeshuas at Siyumim. He would make a Siyum, Daven, and the person would get a Yeshua. Once Ramotela Oshmina was traveling on a train journey. And on the train there was a girl, a from girl called Beila Hinda. And Beila Hinda saw that this tzaddik, this gadol, Ramotela Oshmina was on the train. So she approached Ramotela and she asked him for a bracha. Can she marry? He's looking to marry the husband of Talmud Chacham. So Ramotela turned to her and he said, why do you want to marry a Talmud Chacham? I don't give brachas to people who aren't covered. And he turned away. A little while later into the journey, Ramotela sent his gabba, the person who was traveling with, to call Beila Hinda back. He went through the carriages and he found her. And she came back to Ramotela. And Ramotela said, I thought about this again. And I made the following decision. As a maidel in unser Redoy, if a girl in our generation versteht, as zu haben a man Talmud Chacham is a covered, if a girl in our generation taka understands that it is a covered to have a husband Talmud Chacham, kumt sie taka a man Talmud Chacham. This girl, Beila Hinda, her surname was Frank, and some of you might have made the maths. The Beila Hinda Frank went on to marry Rabbi Issa Zalman Meltzer. Besides for being a distinguished Talmud Chacham and a Machabas Sfarim, Rav Toddus Miller Shlita has invested decades of koichas in instilling and infusing the Bnei Yisrael with the ideals and the ha'arocha to really appreciate and to understand what's mean kavod HaTorah, and to have that sheifa taka to have an aman Talmud Chacham. So when we were looking for a guest speaker, a keynote speaker to address the Maimed tonight, the Chvoida Shal Torah, to be Mahadar and to be Machabed, this Maimed, there was no suffix that Reb Todros would be the right man. And it's a covered and an honor to ask Reb Todros to share into the bracha with
the Rishus, Rabbi Weingarten, Moron v'Rabbonon, Chavuroso Kadishoso, the Oskin Oraysa. I always say that there are two types of speakers. There are good speakers and there are clever speakers. A good speaker is Rabbi Weingarten. A clever speaker is someone who won't speak after Rabbi Weingarten. But I'll try my best. For me, this is to be here tonight, the Simcha tonight, for me, it's a Shushan Purim Suda. The Satmarov used to say his main Purim Suda was on Shushan Purim. Again, he was in New York, in Williamsburg. But his main Purim Suda was Shushan Purim. And he said the reason is because as by Yidden, the Ikke Simcha is frei mit Yen. My own simcha, that was Purim itself. Shushan Purim, I think of all those others in Yerushalayim that they've got Purim today, that I can celebrate with someone else, that's my simcha. I can't say that I've been part of this program. I haven't finished the Masechus Shabbos, and I don't know if I'm going to be starting the Masechus Eruvin. I don't know, maybe by the time this evening is over, I'll be inspired. But it's a simcha for me to join your simcha. And for that I thank Rab Moshe for inviting me to enable me to take part in this tremendous simcha. At the same time, to welcome Rabbi Lozer. And it should be this whole simcha and this whole siyum should be an Ili Neshama, should only know B'Suras Tovis, Yeshuas and Nechomis. First day Slichas, we had a speaker in our base Medrash, and Reb Zelig Weingarten came to speak, as he always does. It's an annual event. We look forward to it. And he mentioned over there, he said that the Ma'or Chaim, that's the Reb Chaim the Vishnitzer Rebbe, he came to his home, he came back home on Motzei Yom Kippur, and his Rebbe says to him, Ich benzach noch der heilige Tag. I'm missing. Ich benzach noch der heilige Tag, and she was humming to herself, going back to the beginning of Slichas, Ashrei Yoshvei Veisecho, Boi Javanu Choselo. And I was thinking to myself, this is just after the Heilige Tag. But we're getting towards the Sukkah's Man Simchosei. And I imagine that in vision that was no small matter, the Zaman Simchosei. But at the same time, Zibenzach noch der Heilige Tag. I think to myself, especially when I heard Rabbi Weingarten say the Hadron, there must be these mixed feelings here as well. We finished Masechus Shabbos, and we've got great things ahead. We've got Masechus Eruvin waiting for us. But as we finish Masechus Shabbos, Mebenkenzach, we say, Hadron Aloch, Daiton Aloch, Le'nesnashimi noch Masechus Shabbos. It's so hard to leave you. It's so hard to break away from you. Even though we've got Masechus Eruvin waiting. It's mixed feelings. There's Ga'aguim, Mebenzach. But maybe we'll see that we can give ourselves some consolation. The Mishnah says in Sot Masechus Tanis, Omer Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, Lo hoyu yomim tovim li Yisrael, kechamisha asa ba'av u'keyom haKippurim. V'chein ha'omer, the Mishnah says weiter, Tze'eno ure'eno b'nois tzion, b'melech shloimoi, ba'atoro she'itro lo'imoi, b'yoyim chasunosoi, u'b'yoyim simchas liboi. B'yoyim chasunosoi, zeh matan toivim. Says Rashi, Yom HaKippurim, she'nitnu boi luchois achroinis. Yom Kippur is the simcha of Yom Kippur. It's the day that the second set of luchois were given to us. That's the simcha, the celebration of Yom Kippur. The Gemara then says, Bishlam Yom Kippur, Mishum de'isbei slicha u'mechila, Yom shenitnu boi luchois achroinis. From all of this we see, not like we might have thought Lefumariato, that the simcha of Yom Kippur is, the ikka is, it's Yom Slicha v'Chapora. And the similar dova is that we were given the Luchas HaChroinos. No. The ikka is that we were given Luchas HaChroinos. In order to get Luchas HaChroinos, there had to be Slicha v'Chapora. But the simcha, Yom Chasu Nosoi, Yom Simchas Liboi, is because Nitnu Boi, Luchas HaChroinos. The simcha mazui, so what's the big simcha? And this is what we're going to. This is our journey. The journey that we are traveling right now. We're in the middle of this journey. Began Shiva Asa B'Tammuz with the Shviras HaLuchos. And then we've moved into a Chodesh Elul. Through ourselves to make tshuva, we're coming in Mitzvah Hashem to a Yom Kippur, where we'll be given back Luchos HaChroinos. That's our journey. That's the object. That's the destination. We're working towards Luchos HaChroinos. Without Luchos, the Torah we have. The Luchos was smashed, but the Torah we have. Chazal say tremendous things about the Luchos Chorus al-Aluchos, Atikri Chorus al-Chayrus, Enocha b'Chayru Nishois b'Talmud Torah. And it's Chayrus mi-Yisurim, mi-Malchamoves, mi-Golus, mi-Yisna. Tremendous, Luchos. What does a Luchos add? We have the Torah B'Ksav. What's the latest too that we have Luchos, the great loss, that Luchos were broken. And now we're yearning, we're waiting, we're climbing, we're working towards receiving once again. Luchos Achroinus. V'hoyu hadvorim ha'ileh. Asher Elohim etzevacha hayoim al levavecha. Al levavecha, the Targum Yedison, ksivin al luach libchay. And Kiyodua, the Briskerov says, what it says that Divrei Torah should be al levavecha, or as the Targum says, ksivin al luach libchay. The Briskerov says, just like there is a lav of Yishamalecho, Pentishkach, and is that's a lav. In addition to the lav, there is an aseh that Divrei Torah should be al levavecha, ksivan al luach libchay means learn Torah in a way that you don't forget. There's an issa, there's a lav to forget, and there's a mitzvah to learn in a way that you won't forget. V'hoyu hadvorim ha'ileh, sholich metzavach hayoim al levavecha, ksuvin al luach libchay. Luach libchay means learning Torah luchos dik. The chiluk between ksiva and chakika in luchos, when you write something, then you're superimposing one thing upon another. You put ink upon paper. These are two separate things, one upon the other. Engraving in luchos is not one thing upon another. You transform the shape of the luchos, that the luchos mitzad atzmon read the message. Luchos is mineyubei. Luchos means the luchos are. It's not that upon the luchos you have divrei Torah. The luchos are divrei Torah. Chorus al-luach libchay, ksivan al-luach libchay means it's not just the Torah that we know, it's the Torah that we are. There's a darga of Torah which would just be ksiva. And in addition, there is a darga which is called luchos. Luchos means that I become divrei Torah. I become a cheftza of Torah. It's chokuk. It's one with me. And that's why Chazal say, ilmonu nishtamru haluchos, there will never be shikha. You can't forget. The Gemara says that, because luchos means shivrei luchos means shikha. With luchos, there can't be shikha. Shviras luchos allows for shikha. Because you can forget things that you know. You can't forget what you are. That's always with me. I can escape, knowledge can escape me, but myself can't escape me. If it's luchos is mufga from shikha. The luchos is libon shel Yisrael. Interesting thing, you know that whenever we have a tziyur of luchos, whether it's on a paroiches or the entrance to a Beis HaKnesses, then for time immemorial, the way luchos have been presented has always been with each luach with a curve on top. And there is no mekoyer, of course that's not the way it was. They were not curved on top. And there is a Radvaz, says that the luchos represent the hearts of Klal Yisrael. And it's been said, I heard this from Rosh Yeshiva, that the reason why it's not just a mistake, because this is something which is being l'doirei doiros, ve'ein poitzechel mitzavtzech. Gedolei olam have entered through the main doors of shuls with those who they never made any muchal. That was accepted. Because it's to be maramis that the luchos represent the heart. So there's something reminiscent of a heart. But that's the heart. That's the heart of Klal Yisrael. Ksiven al luach libchoi. Our heart becomes luchos. Not just Torah that we know, Torah that we are. We lost that. We had to get it back. That darga of being one with Torah, with the Chet Egel, we lost that madrega. And we were working towards, our whole tshuva was to work towards once again. That's what tshuva always is. As a result of Chet, we become separate from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, separate from Torah. Tshuva means we want to come back again, to be misached once again. Luchos means Kuchibrichu Yisrael v'Oraysa Chadhu. We are one with Torah, which is one with the Rebbeinu Shalom. That's what we're working towards. We were Zoicha to Luchos Achronis. True, not the same dad as Luchos Rishonis, it's Psal Lucha. Psal Lucha means you need to work hard, but if you work hard, then yes, you can still get back to a darga of Luchos. Luchos v'shivrei Luchos munachin ba'orei. We're not forgetting the first dag through the second Luchos, we aim towards, we work towards. In fact, in Kadmonim it says that Chodesh Elul has got a lot of Ramazim. One of the Ramazim in Kadmonim it says is Elul is Oroi Luchos v'shivrei Luchos. That's what we're working towards, getting back once again to the dagger of Luchos. That's the V'hoyu hadvarim eile asher leichem etzavach hayom al levavecha. The Pachad Yitzchok points out an interesting thing. We've got two parashas of Krishna. In the first parasha it says V'hoyu hadvarim eile asher leichem etzavach hayom al levavecha. In the second parasha it's V'samtem es devar eile al levavchem v'anashchem. So you've got in both cases the same din. Like the Briskerov says, this is a chiyuv to learn Torah in a way that you don't forget, which we're saying that means to learn Torah luchos dik. But in the first parasha it's v'hoyu, passive, and the second parasha it's v'samtem, active. And he writes, because there are two eitzes, how, in his words, how to fight the shiltoim hashikha. We're fighting, we have a battle against shikha. We learn and we can forget. How do we fight against the shiltoim hashikha? He says there are two strategies. One, he says, is ta'anuk haklita. That when you learn Torah in a way that it's so geschmack when you learn it, at such hana, such ta'anuk when I learned it, you don't forget. Someone once asked the Ur Sameach, asked him, you have Kol HaTorah on your fingertips, you have such a recall. He says, how do you do that? How do you develop such a zikaron? So he said to him, I haven't got such a gewaltige zikaron. So let me ask you a question, he said to him. Do you remember your chasana? It was maybe decades ago. You remember your chasana? So sure, how could I forget my chasana? So this man said, you should know that by me, every Omud Gemara is a chasana. I don't forget. When there's the ta'anuk haklita, that when I learned it, it's so geschmack, it's such an experience, I could never forget it. That's one eitzah. And the second passion is another eitzah. V'samtem, so v'hoyu means passive. You learn in a way that it just stays. It just stays because it was so geschmack. It just remains there. V'hoyu hadvarim ha'ila shleim tzavachim al levavecha. The second passion is another eitzah. V'samtem. V'samtem is ribui chazor. The more you chazor, the more you drive it in. That's v'samtem. That needs action. That's v'samtem. That's active. Those are the two eitzahs. Geschmack, ta'anuk haklita is one way, and the other eitzah is ribui chazor. These are the two eitzahs the Torah gives us to fight against the shiltoim hashikha. And that seems to be the ethos of Oraysa. These two in Yom. To learn at a pace that I can still have the geschmack. It can't be a race to get through something, a race against time. We might get through it, but the geschmack, the ta'anuk haklita won't be there. To learn at a slower pace, give myself the time that I can look into it, and I can think into it, and I can get the ta'anuk, the geschmack of it, and the ribui chazor. The v'hoyu and the v'samtem, together, that is the ethos of Oraysa. We're celebrating now Mamish in Yom HaDiyona, as we said. We're working to get back to the dagger of Luchos Achronis. That's always, tshuva means to get back to how it was at Ma'amad Har Sinai. Ma'amad Har Sinai, even with tzaddikim. Chet Egel, we lost it. We're trying to get back. Every time we do an Aveira, it's a shvirus luchis of souls. Creates a richuk, it creates a pirut. We're trying to get back. When there's a pirut, it's shayk shikha. We're trying to get back to a matter where there is no shikha. Shuva Yisrael ad Hashem Elokecha. Say Chazal. Ad Hashem Elokecha ad hahu she'omer lecha b'Sinai onochi Hashem Elokecha. Shuva is to get back to Ma'amad HaSinai. Ma'amad HaSinai, the matter was Hayulim Divloi Hayushokim. Because Ma'amad HaSinai, that was the ultimate Ma'amad of Ta'anug HaKlita. Ma'amad HaSinai Hoyu Advarim Smeichim Kinesi Nosam B'Sinai. That was Ma'amad HaSinai. Yishakeim in the Shikos Pihu Ki Tovim Deidechum Yayin. That was Ma'amad HaSinai. Hashiveinu Avinu L'Seir Secha. That's what we're trying to get back to. We blow shofar. The shofar is, Rav Sadi Gon writes, L'Hazkireinu Ma'amad HaSinai. Ma'amad HaSinai was with a koil shofar. Koil shofar, choylech v'chozik ma'oid. What is koil shofar? Koil shofar is the koyach against shikha. That's what the Rambam says. Remez yesh bo, kloima, uri yishayim mishnaschem, nerdol makitz metar damaschem, chipsu b'maseichem, chizru b'tshuva, v'zichru b'yirachem. Which is interesting because the Seder we would have thought should be differently. First it should have said, zichru b'yirachem, chizru b'maseichem, chizru b'tshuva. No. Chizru b'tshuva, chipsu b'maseichem, chizru b'tshuva, ultimately, zichru b'yirachem. And the Rambam continues, Eilu hashoichichin eso'enes b'havlei hazman. The shofar has the koyach to bring us back to a matter where there is no shikha. That was Ma'amad HaSinai. The Ta'anug HaKlita. Lo devloi hoyu shoichim. Zazoi geschmack, wie kann man vergessen? The shofar brings us back. The shofar is the sound of Ma'amad HaSinai. The shofar brings to a matter where there is no shikha. When you're talking about Ta'anug HaKlita, there is never a Ta'anug unless it's a milui, it's going to be a milui rotz. Something that I'm very, very keen and very anxious to get. I have a desire for it, I have a rotzoin for it. The milui rotzoin is a Ta'anug. If there is no rotzoin, there can't be a milui rotzoin. That's why. Ma'amad HaSinai was the Ma'amad of Ta'anug, the ultimate Ta'anug HaKlita. But beforehand, a prerequisite was, you didn't have to say, Ritzoineinu liroises malkeinu. We have a rotzoin, we have a desperate rotzoin for it. The chinuch called Ma'amad HaSinai Yoim HaNichsaf. It needs a nichsaf of a gam kol sanashi lechatzus beis Hashem. Naftali, Ayol Shalucha, Hanoisin Imrei Shefer. And in Devarim, V'zoi Sabrocha, Naftali Seva Rotzoin, Umoli Birkas Hashem. And we know that B'chol HaShvotim Atomoitze Berchosu Shel Moshe, Me'en Berchosu Shel Yaakov. What's the Shaykhs? And what's the Reish and what's the Sefer? Naftali Seva Rotzoin, Umoli Birkas Hashem, and then in Vayechi, Naftali Ayol Shalucha, Hanoisei Imrei Shefer, the Hein Hadvorim. Naftali Ayol Shluch is middle of Zerizus. Zerizus is Rotzoi. Rotzoi Meloshn Rotz. If I really want something, I run towards it, Zerizus. Naftali Ayol Shluch, Hanoisei Imrei Shefer. One shot in Imrei Shefer is beautiful words. Torah is beautiful. Torah is Geschmack. But that requires, a prerequisite is, Ayol Shalucha, the Rotzein, the Zerizus towards it. And do you know what Chazal say on Anoisin Imrei Shefer? Eilu Divrei Torah, Shenitnu B'Koil Shofar. Divrei Torah, Shenitnu B'Koil Shofar means it's Ma'amad HaSinaidik. Or Lidvareinu, that's Luchoisdik. But that Ta'anug, that Geschmack, has to be because there's a Rotzein towards it. I would like to say something. L'chvoid the Noshin Tzidkonis. The Moshe mentioned all those who are the Siyum encompasses. Meir Hero, Rabbonim, Magidei Shia, hard-working Balabatim, Bocherim, children. But we've missed out one very, very important component over here, which it's due to them that this is all possible. So if I may, I'd like to speak to the women for a change. My father used to say, at simchas, if there was a simcha, a chasna of a very special talmidah, this is what he used to say. He says there are three levels. There are three levels of being a wife. He says there is a good wife, there is a great wife, and there is a superb wife. What are these three daggers? The first dagger, he said, a good wife is what Chazal say, above that, he said, this next dagger is a great wife. That is what Chazal say, above that, there is the superb wife, about which Chazal say, and he explained. On the first level, means you can have someone, a woman, and she marries a Ben Torah, a budding Talmud Chacham. She's got her own agenda, she's got her own interests, she has her own desires. But she'll say, I'll put my own interests to the side, and I'll dedicate myself to help my husband achieve what he wants to achieve. That's the Isha Ksheira, Sha'isa Ritzayin Bala. But she has her own desire, but she puts it aside. I'll do it for my husband. But she has her own interests. Put to the side. Above that is she generates within herself, she creates within herself Ritzayin Bala. That means that her husband's Ritzayin becomes her very own Ritzayin. It's not anymore that she's putting her own Ritzayin aside, Adarabah. Her husband's Ritzayin is her own Ritzayin. She'oisa in herself. Ritzayin Bala. That's a great wife. Then he said the superb wife is Ritzayin Bala. That means that when you have someone, a woman, who shows that her joy and her pride is her husband's learning, it's so, for her it's so exciting, for her it's so meaningful. When she has that attitude, it generates Rotzoin in her husband. That gives him more cheshik. She can actually generate Rotzoin in her husband. We're learning over here. Besides what the Gemara says, not really Guvrayu, Machil Banai, Dos Avada. But here we're learning something else. To get to the Tainuk HaKlita of Torah, has to be Rotzoin. And the Isha Ksheira, who has that attitude and generates Rotzain, the more Rotzain that he can have, then the more Tainuk HaKlita he's going to be Zoicha to. And therefore we say, in the name of Oraysa, to all these Noshim Ksheros, that they have this joy and this pride and this understanding, this appreciation. And as Ramosha mentioned before, sometimes it means late at night, the husbands are busy, they've got to finish, and they're happy with that, they're proud of that. If there is a Rotzoin, that it's Naftolis Rotzoin Umoli Birkas Hashem, then they can be Zoicha to this Tainuk HaKlita, which is all about becoming one with Torah, and if we're one with Torah, there is never Shikha. And let me just finish off. We mentioned before, we spoke about the story that we heard from Reb Zaylik. And what the Hargosha we had when Rabbi Weingarten said the Hadron, it sounded like it's a mishvera vekzige. It's difficult for me to drop it. We're leaving Shabbos behind, and now we're moving on to Eruvin. The Pasuk says, and with this we'll finish. V'chosat al ha'avonim es kol divrei ha'torah hazois ba'er heitev. Ba'er heitev, says Rashi, b'shiv im loshen. Where do you see shiv im loshen in the words ba'er heitev? So the Mefarshei Rashi, Gerard brings B'Shem the Mizrahi, because heitev is b'gematria 70. Now one doesn't have to be a master of mathematics to know that heitev does not add up to 70. It adds up to precisely 26. So how do you get 70? And they explain there's a new kind of gematria. Because if you add hey Taylor's hey yud tes base, hey plus hey yud plus hey yud tes plus hey yud tes base, hey is 5, hey yud is 15, hey yud tes is 24, hey tev is 26, add all that together, you get 70. It's a modern min gematria. Pshat is, that's how it goes. In Oraysa, you've been through brachas, then you moved on to Shabbos. You don't leave brachas behind. With Maseches brachas, gehen me weiter und me lernen Shabbos. Shabbos is a different Shabbos. You're coming with the idea of brachos, but not hazoi lernen Shabbos. Then you have brachos and Shabbos, and with brachos and Shabbos, gehen me weiter, me lernen Eruvin. Ja, the verstehen, that's an easy one to understand. If you learn Shabbos, then Eruvin has an andere time. But that's how it goes all the way through Shas. And with your brachas, Shabbos and Eruvin, you'll go and learn Pesachim. That's the gematria over here. Each thing, you never leave it behind. We're always taking it with. We're not leaving the Heilige Tag behind, we're taking the Heilige Tag into Sukkot. We're not leaving Shabbos behind, we're taking Shabbos with us into Eruvin. That's the Hadron Aloch, Daiton Aloch, and Loin Nesnashin Minoch. V'hirotzen. Soll der Eibishter helfen. Durch Gesäuche to the real Simcha of Yom Kippur. The Simcha of Slicha u'Mechila and Luchas Shneis. To become one with the Torah. Kutshibrichu Yisrael v'Oraysa Chadru. To have that Simcha. Simcha is always an expansion of a sense of being alive. That's what Simcha always is. Simcha is, I feel more alive. Because if you become one with Torah, then you have become a bigger person. You have become a greater person. And that's Simcha. That's the Simcha of Yom Kippur. Slicha u'Mechila, Luchas Shneis. And it should be the sky for each and every one of us. What each and every one of us is mispaled. Ve'erav kodomach, the siftach liboi ba'Oraysa, the sashli mishalim de liboi, ve'libo tochalamach Yisrael, letav, lechayim, v'lishlom, Amen.
Like כלפי מעלות, שבתי מסביבו, שבתי מסביבו לאביו שבשמיים. So come join in my song, come bring the thousand miles. Your harmony I love, your voice, your voice, your smile. Come join in my song, come bring the thousand miles. Your harmony I love, your voice, your voice, your smile. La 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 la. Da-da-da.